love to see if you have any questions for our panelists.
Can we also acknowledge our audience that like we are in a room full of student parents and like have you all like, right?
And a room of there we go. I was saying.
Is this on? Yeah. I feel like we tend to say like we're doing the work to break generational curses and things like that, and we put breaking that curse in the future. To Ariel specifically, I just want to commend you because taking your son to campus is breaking the generational curse. So I just want to give you props and respect, and that's amazing. You did it now opposed to like, it's affirming the action right now opposed to in the future.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Yeah, that part.
I have a question for all of you that has been asked to me many times. What is one thing you would say to your younger self so that you know that you're doing the right thing?
I still don't know that. Sorry, all I have is jokes. But just keep going. It'll be fine. That's fine.
I think I would say the same. I think that it looks glamorous and it sounds, I've accomplished things in life I never thought I would. And so, and it looks like, it looks great, but I still cry. I still get angry. I'm very blessed, but I fight. I keep telling them, well, why do I have to fight my entire life? But I think I was made for this, right? And so my famous, do not say that, Reverend Jesse Jackson said it, but my famous saying, as they know in the painting class this morning, is keep hope alive. And I think that that's what I would say to my younger self, to your younger self, and to anybody else's self. Keep hope alive.
Yeah. I think for me, I would probably delve in a little bit more specifically in just that I would tell myself that we grow from pain, and some of those hardest moments where you don't think you can handle another day, or where you feel like the world is crashing around you, whether it be car breakdowns, lack of coverage for childcare, failed classes.
Failed classes? Oh.
Not you?
Failed classes and having to repeat them. And just not knowing where this is going or if it's even going to pop for you, and to just keep going. Just keep going.
I think I would say that to my younger self, you are worthy. And I'm thinking about some of the conversation we had this morning in one of our sessions, and I want to say that to the group, you are worthy. So whatever the trial, tribulation issue is, just remember that and suck it up and keep it moving.
Other questions? We got Savannah, Yoslin.
That whole table is just keep passing it around.
We'll get that table when we go to Leslie.
So
Sorry, there's someone back there? Oh, I see you.
It's me.
I see Rashika.
So I just wanted to say it's a question, comment. So hearing Yolanda speak, I was one of those people that went to school a couple times being a single parent, and I didn't know that I could have fought for certain things. There's times I went to school and I had to stop because being a parent superseded my education at that time. I didn't know that I could have fought for certain things to continue my education instead of starting and stopping and then finally doing it when my son was older. How did you know that you can make that change to be able to progress in your education being a single parent, a student parent? How did you know you can do that? Because I didn't know that I didn't have to quit school. I could have said, no, y'all gonna make concessions for me.
I think we don't know what we don't know. And so I think in preparing for the future, I think that's what this is all about. In preparing for the future, we build on the knowledge of not knowing. You know, when I was standing outside, I came here a couple of times and they said that, empty out the negative and pour in the positive and have an opportunity to dream, right? And so when I'm here and I have this opportunity, and I hear the rest of my peers, I'm thinking of what might the next student not know. Because whatever happened to me is over, right? So it's a little bit late for me, unless I go for my PhD, but I don't think so. But the bottom line is, I had to talk to you, but the bottom line is that preparing for that grandbaby that you have sitting next to you, right? To make sure that there's accommodations for the people in our community, right? And having a Miss Green or being Miss Green for someone. It may not be a big scholarship or $1 million or a foundation, but what are you doing? What are we doing to make sure that that parent could go to school?
I think sometimes we're also taught to suffer in silence. And so we have these problems and we don't know where to go, and so we just don't go anywhere with them. And I think that it's really important that even if you don't know where to go, start somewhere. Ask an advisor, ask financial aid, hey, I'm struggling, what is there? And if they don't know, try another office. And I know that's exhausting as we have 10,000 other things, but I ask a lot of questions all of the time. and that I think is how I learn, and how I hope that folks also utilize that as a form of advocacy, of self-advocacy, saying what is available and what can I do.
Okay, so I'm gonna take it back to the dream question.
Oh, see.
And you've stated what your dreams are for 2024. Now, my question to you all is, what is your commitment to meeting that dream in 2024?
Making people uncomfortable, since I'm so close to Washington, D.C. That's what I do for a living. So when I talk about wanting, very good question, and I like the action behind it. Our student parents, and I'm saying it in the sphere of my college, I guess, to be treated the same way as our veteran students or any other group. We're in the third most affluent county in the nation, Columbia, Maryland. When you go into that county, there's not a drop of paper on the floor, on the ground. It's the cleanest place you've ever seen. The most highly educated population that you've probably ever seen. I was quite shocked at it. And the issue that we have is, I've been in spaces where it's truly impoverished communities, but it's hard for us to make a claim or a statement and say we need XYZ grant dollars to do things, because our data just doesn't show that there's this big needs, such as places like LA or Syracuse, New York, or you name the place that's a lot different. But what we do have is an undercurrent of folks who don't have, that are coming from Baltimore or some of the other outside regions in the DMV to Columbia. But the problem is, again, that when you get the student parents on campus, people act like they just don't exist. And they tell that to me, the president. So I'll be there. I'll celebrate my 2-year anniversary in a couple months. I'm going to celebrate that because I'm still standing. However, I'm going to take it as an opportunity to continue to make people feel uncomfortable about it. So when people say, well, we can't do this for our student parents because, I'm going to say, why? You can do it for this group, but you can't do it for that group. But you can do it for this group, but you can't do it for our student parents. And when I do that, then people get really shifty and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go back to my county executive. I'm going to go back to our whole delegation of elected officials and say, now what can you do to help me make this a reality on my campus? And then also see how we can sit in my president's group of 16 community college presidents who are varying in generations. So let me just say that. We've got some new groups, and we got some really old people that have been there for a really, 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 really long time, and they need to kind of retire and stuff. They kind of look like Tales from the Crypt, and they're bringing some of those traditional mindsets into their colleges. But I say all that to say that I'm going to challenge them with that as well, so that it's not just a thing that's happening on my campus, but one where we are encouraging and even shaming other institutions into making it right for student parents.
So, amazing. I'm committed to create spaces to bring Daria to DC so she could tell them directly, but not just Daria, all of you all, right? I mean, that's literally what I do, is to create these spaces so you can not just share your narrative, but see change, right? So moving to that next version of advocacy, right? And it's not just with you, it's also with Aspen Fellows, it's also with state policy leaders, college presidents, and there's a whole, there's 4,000 colleges in this country, right? So really ensuring that my role is continue to ensure that this work in this field is growing, and not just kind of us talking to the same choir, preaching the choir, but expanding and getting people and doing the myth busting. I don't know how much of my job is literally just sharing the data and busting myths, and also recognizing too that this population is intersectional, right? So if any president or anybody says, well, I only care about students of color, I only care about first generation, I only care about women students, I only care about this, I'm like, student parent, student parent, student parent, student parent, student parent. Like, it's literally like, you just do my work for me. So, so I'm constantly reminding people that this is an intersectional population, and unfortunately, in post-secondary, we're really good at siloing. I don't know why we love our silos, we love our deficit thinking, and so continuing to fight against the silos, continuing to fight against the deficit thinking, and recognizing that student parents are intersectional, student parents are assets, and continuing to remind all the leaders within this space that that's the case. So that's what I'll be doing.
Nice.
I think I'll go ahead next. It's a great question, Yoslin, the commitment piece there. But I think the mission has always stayed the same, and that's to try to create change, right? And that's to try to push student parents forward. And so I've been honored, obviously, to have worked with some really amazing organizations, some really amazing people, and I think I've always tried to, at the capacity that I can, always try to advocate for student parents, and that has never stopped, hence why I started working with you at Generation Hope as well, so there's that. But the commitment piece, just to keep it pushing,
I believe that all things happen for a reason. And I'm serious. I sat with Kathy today, and I have visions. And, you know, you can leave here, like we said earlier, and you like, I can change the universe. And then about 2 weeks later, like, oh, I don't even want to see the universe. But I believe that all things happen for a reason. And I think that I was invited here this time to rejuvenate, right? And understand where I'm standing. Because, you know, you like, yeah, I did this, I did that, but you really are very powerful in your own right. And so we can create the opportunities. And I think my commitment was I had a good time. I don't know if y'all gonna be with Kathy this morning, just even believing that I can still move forward. Because I'm like, it's old, we don't need to do it no more, whatever, just stay where you're at. But really pushing. And when I push, I pull. When I push, I pull all the time. And so when you keep that at the forefront, you're always moving. Whether it's a couple of months left in 23, 24, and you're always thinking, always. Because when he said men, I could fill this room with men who are student parents, right? And I'm like, wow, I run a shelter with people who live there, and they go to school. And I'm like, wow. But you won't know it if you're not invited to open your mind and open your brain, and you live in New York. Can't think past go. but I think we were invited here for a purpose. And cohort 3 and the others, get ready, get ready, get ready. Because I don't have to go to David and Marjorie and Sarah and them, I can tell them to help me with my stuff, but I can come to you, Amber, right? I can call you, and I can make sure that we're connecting the dots, even in Washington State, right, Drayton? So we have to keep, it's not only the people who are up here, it is also all of us. What are we going to do to make sure that all of us show up and show out?
That's fantastic. don't know how you followed that. Like,
Where's my organ?
right? Are they going to put sound effects on this one like the 105 podcast?
All right.
I have sound effects on my part also.
Yeah, we all do. So I'm like, do we get it on this?
Really good.
I feel also really connected. I was starting to get a little nervous because I'm no longer a student parent, and like what that meant for me in this space and in this work, and like, you know, I don't want to be the person that should retire. Like, you know, you're no longer relevant. And so I think that I feel really, really connected and still very included, and that's meant a lot to me. And to carry that energy forward, I guess, is my commitment. I talk to a lot of people, and I will continue to do that. And just really thank you all for participating in all of our dreams and being a part of that.
We'll take 2 more questions. So I know Savannah was really wanting to ask, so go. Maybe 3.
My question is kind of a feely question. It's similar to Mira's. I want to know that when you're feeling burnt out and tired and just completely over it, how do you keep going? And I don't want you to say, my kids, the people I work with because they have needs. I'm sorry, those are amazing, beautiful things. I love my children. I love the people I work with. But for you, what do you do? What is just for you that you do to keep going and to say, you know what, this is worth it, and to rejuvenate yourself? That's what I want to know.
Self-care, who are you? That's for you.
Wait, somebody should go before
Everyone
you.
answer.
I don't know, I cry a lot, and I went to therapy, which is a huge privilege. And
we've all been at those moments, right? I try to ground myself. I really try to assess the situation for what it is. Am I going to die because of it? Probably not, right? But the situation is there. You have to face it head on. And I think just taking those moments to just really take care of yourself, right? Be patient with yourself. And then just also forgive yourself as well, too. I think that's really important.
Great question. And I used to say I'm not good at it, but I am now. So what's today? Tuesday? Yes. This afternoon, we got some really sad news that a colleague president passed out on stage at an official event, and she passed away this morning. And the sad part is, Black woman, 72, which is still relatively young in the field. And I've been thinking about that even before that happened, but that's been weighing on my heart and my mind lately. And I've had some really challenging situations just in this role, and not even attached to my lived experience, but in this role. And so what I have learned to do is run away. I literally will drop everything. I will book me a flight out of Maryland or wherever, and I will go missing for 5 to 7 days.
Yes.
I won't talk to my kids. I won't talk to my husband. I just came back from Phoenix, and they was like, why were you in hot Phoenix? Because I wanted to be in hot Phoenix, because I can. And I think we need to make the space to be okay with that, because we're shamed into thinking that if we don't hug our kids every day, okay, yes, I do, but no, that something's wrong with us. But in order for me to be able to give fully to this work and also to my family, I have learned that the way I self-care is now I start to mandatorily put it in my calendar to either extend a trip from work. I'm gonna go here after I finish that. Or every morning now, at 5 to 6 days a week, I'm in the park running, because that helps me get ready for my day. Or I'm getting on the flight and I'm going somewhere. And it doesn't have to be an extravagant place. It doesn't have to be a resort or anything, but it has to be me time that I can focus and grow and rejuvenate and come back and do it again.
Girl, bye. Go to the liquor store. Okay, cut that out. My bad. Praise the Lord. God ain't through with me yet. So I don't have a bathtub that goes to my neck. I have one of those ones that they got in the room here. I was like, what kind of bathtubs I meant? But so I will find a spa. I do little things. I will find a spa. Like I walked right here around a couple of times just so I can breathe in fresh air. And for me, I can't do certain things that I would love to do. I love to go places and stay longer and stuff like that. I do that as well. But I take the advantage, and I've been trying to get Anjanette to go. I take the advantage to go to spas. I will get some Baileys, you know, or something.
And I
nothing
went wrong with Bailey's. See, David?
Yeah.
Nothing. I bought a whole thing of Bailey's yesterday. Nothing wrong with Bailey's.
See what I'm saying?
That's my
Baileys is
drink.
out. But what I'm saying is, we expect to do something big.
Straight, no chaser.
Right.
Okay.
And the other
We gotta
thing,
add nothing with it.
And the other, wait, don't put that part. But the other thing is, we expect to do something huge, right? Sometimes I walk around my block. I notice a lot of people here. I notice a lot of people got dogs and cats and animals, but sometimes it's just hugging my animal. It's taking the time out to know I celebrate triumph, and I also make sure that I take time out to do whatever is in my means of doing. Because I'm on the other side of 50, and I'm like her. I'm watching people still in New York who was here today and are gone tomorrow. And so just to make sure that I appreciated whatever was offered, take some time out for you. And yes, I love my son, right? And I love my son, and I hope that, you know, he has a wonderful, you know, beautiful life, and the kids and all of that, grandkids. I don't have any, but all grandbabies. But the bottom line is take some time out, even if it's sitting here and eating the peach dessert that they have. Mine is right there. Don't let them take mine. Because those are the things that you don't pay attention to. My grandmother used to say that we hurrying up, we rushing, we hurrying up, and you're just gonna die. So why are you rushing? So just take some time out. It could be a bath. It could be anything. The other thing that I have to say to you that is extremely important to me is talking. I will tell you what my problems are, and I will ask you for help. Be it a therapist, be it a friend, be it a pastor, be it a rabbi, it doesn't matter. David, anybody. I will say, I need this to happen. Because I don't have to hold it. I can give it to someone. And guess what? There's always somebody who's going to pull me through.
I wanted to just jump in and like kind of just finish that off real quick, David. I think I was thinking on that question just a little bit more, and I appreciated that Yolanda finished it just like that, because one of the things that Savannah that like definitely keeps me going, that I started putting into practice, is I think of the people in my circle that matter, right? And this is, I mean, I'm talking about including everyone here as well too, right? So I think about, you know, I think about the Aspen Institute in the Sand. I think about my Generation Hope family. I think about, you know, my father's in the building here today and stuff like that. And I know, I ask myself, would they want me to stop right here? Would they want me to just end it right here and not keep going or face my problems head on? And I know the answer to that, and y'all know the answer to that too. So look at your people. Oh, no problem.
All right, we'll take two more questions. Okay. Janine and one other.
So, Daria, sincere condolences for your loss. Sudden death is not easy. I have a question around whole family approaches. And so my question is, what does a whole family approach look like in your organization, and for you especially, Daria? How do you incorporate this idea or concept of supporting an entire family, that unit that is that, you know, that it takes a village to raise a child concept? How do you support the other individuals that are not in your post-secondary program to help to elevate and ensure that this particular parent student is able to complete their degree program? What does that look like?
It looks like rocking the boat, creating waves, and making people mad, number one, because higher education was not meant for us. It was meant to be a hierarchical structure to keep certain people in and other people out. But for what I do in my work, it's even down to the granular level of our food pantry. So now our food pantry isn't just a place where you just walk in and get some cans and walk out. We've restructured it to where we've built family meal kits, and it says family meal kits. And in order to get the unhealthier items, you gotta bend all the way down to the floor to get the stuff with high sodium and everything, the chips. And sometimes we don't even allow those items in our pantry. We have fresh produce that we're now growing, that the students are growing themselves and putting into the pantry. Nice. We created kits for just, if you're hungry, you need something in the middle of the day with your kid, bring them in here, pick it up, and go do your thing, right? And the reason why we call them the family meal kits is because they have instructions for the littles as well. So little Johnny or whoever can do this part of the recipe while the parent is doing that part of the recipe. We're also working to reopen our child care center, which was closed during the pandemic prior to my arrival, but closed during the pandemic. And we're working with groups like the United Way, our Community Action Council, the YMCA to create a whole family type of scenario, a 2-gen approach, which the CAC in Howard County goes off of the Aspen metrics for pre-K and child care. But what we're creating is not just like this drop-off thing, but in much of what I've heard here, the children are learning that college is for them as well. And what I've said to people are, I don't care if they go to my college, I just care that they go to somebody's institution. We are also changing the name of our student parent support group because it was called Career Links. And I was like, well, what does that mean? I don't know what, when you hear Career Links, do you hear student parents? No. So finally, after moaning and groaning about it for nearly 2 years, they just said, we're the student parent support group. I was like, look at that. That's so awesome. And they've got book bags, and now we're creating T-shirts and coloring books. So when the children come in, they're not just like roaming around doing all this stuff and blah, 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 but they have activities and things that make them feel welcome on the campus. We're changing our policies to where it used to be that my predecessor said children are not allowed on campus. That was like a presidential edict. And I said, why not? And then they wondered why enrollment was low. Well, if you tell them they can't come on campus and you decide to try to get them when they're like 17 or 18 years old, they're not going to come either way. And then finally, we're building programs where parent and child can study together. So we have a new middle college program where we're hitting our Title I schools. And it's different than, I don't know if you all heard of dual enrollment or dual credit, where you have your more affluent students who come and take classes on the college campus. But interestingly enough, in our county, it's more affluent white kids from the western part of the county who are taking classes than the students of color in our Title I schools that surround the campus. So we got a $2.5 million grant from someone who's going to allow us to build a middle college for the kids in our Title I area that will also provide scholarships to their parents so that they can come and take classes as well. Wow. So when I'm talking about, but again, when we're doing these things, it's ruffling feathers because that means that we have talking about new accountability metrics and blah, blah, blah. And then finally, we're building our courses around an 8-week model. So I'm sick of hearing people say, oh my God, I just don't know when I'm going to get out of these classes. Well, because they're 16 weeks. And why are classes 16 weeks? Because the textbooks has 16 chapters in it, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So we're moving from this 15, 16-week module into an 8-week format, and that's got a lot of people nervous and scared. But the data shows that if you can get people in and out and they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, what does that do for themselves? What does that do for their children? And ending that cycle of poverty. So I wish I could say it's a holistic approach, but honestly, I have ADHD and I have like pop-ups that happen in my brain all the time. So I'm waking up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm firing off an email to one of my VPs. And then I say, that's your new priority, put it on your list. You're gonna be evaluated on that by the end of the year. So I'll get to it when I get to it, but it's really about just making college for us. I think of FUBU, for us, by us. Like, how do we make college for us and where everybody feels connected and that they have a place where they feel like they belong? So thank you for the question.
Does anyone else want to answer?
We're not doing, we don't do
Okay. You want to answer? Yeah, please.
I broke the other microphone by dropping it right now, so now I have 2 mics.
Special.
Keep going. Because we have some of our lives off campus and my current role isn't necessarily student parent specific, one of the things I thought of was paid family leave and how California is looking at incorporating chosen family in paid family leave because not everybody has family that they can rely on or to watch their children or to help when they're sick. And so expanding like what is our definition of family and what does it mean to care for each other? And then also they call it didactic care models. I don't know who made up these names. But what it means is to allow parents and children to be able to be seen by the doctor at the same time. So instead of having to have multiple appointments, if a doctor is seeing your child for like a rash and they see the start of it on you also, they can be like, hey, let me treat you right now too while you're here. And I think that is really like those types of expanding our community supports benefit student parents, but also our community at large.
I love that. All right, one last question. Okay, Leslie, thank you.
Why did you say it like that? Did you not want me to ask a question?
No, I said Leslie.
I'm just kidding. This question is specifically for Ariel, and I think Yolanda touched on it too. In working or like dipping my toe into like admissions and enrollments in colleges, I see a lot like we're thinking about how many males of color particularly, are enrolling into college, but not like college completion rates specifically for Black and brown men, and even less for student fathers, right? And so you talked about that being like one of your goals. Do you have any like steps or something, to give us to take away? Like, how can we start that work, especially with, a room full of, like mothers, right? A lot of women. How can we elevate those voices of student fathers, Black men and brown men, to elevate their voices to the table when they're usually not asked for their opinions or anything like that?
Right. Thank you, Leslie. It's a great question. I think number one, to start off, representation matters. Where are those men of color, fathers of color, who were student parents in those institutions? Are they at the table, right? So putting them at the seat of the table, and then also creating a menu, right? They can't just be at the table. They have to, right? They have to look at the menu, right? What's possible? But I don't want to say that I have the answers. I think we all collectively have the answers. I think touching on what Daria was talking about a little bit, how they changed they're changing their 16-week curriculum model to 8-week curriculum model, and they got people nervous. I think that's a very, very good first step for educational attainment, just for student parents in general. But also that brings the wave of student fathers as well too. It's now more possible for them too to kind of see their roadmap play out and see how they can get in and they can get out too. So I think. I wish I had all the answers for that, but I think collectively as a whole, we've had some very, very good answers from all of us here.
I do want to do a shameless plug. We released a brief or a data fact sheet around the 1 million student fathers, and that was purposeful. We actually had an intern last summer who was a student father himself, Alex Bosch, and he looked all over the internet and through resources as well, and found very few, like less than 10 research elements around and reports around student fathers. Like there was such little data, so we decided that we pulled that information, did some other analysis, and at least created a single space that had data around student fathers. Because to Ariel's point, there are specific needs, especially for Black and brown fathers that we saw in that data that was not clear prior, right? So I think awareness is really important. But also I would just say too, this is a general trend too. Some would say, I don't necessarily call it a crisis, but I know that some in higher education do, but that in general, enrollment of men in higher education has been declining for a long time, and it's at, after the pandemic, it's the lowest it's ever been, basically. And I think there's good reason. One, women are really interested in getting educated, and many of the pathways that women are interested in, like healthcare pathways, require degrees, where some of those construction jobs and other jobs for men, that men typically take that are somewhat higher wage, but not necessarily high wage, don't require as much credentialing, right? So that's one element, but I think there's so many other elements too. I think that there's, to Ariel's point, there's factors out there that are telling men that they should not be going back to college, that they should take just whatever job they can get to raise their families. So there's also societal pressure too, and all those other elements. So I think we're building that awareness, but I think to Ariel's point, there's probably no single solution, but I think we can definitely get together a group of fathers and other interested parties as well to start thinking about this question around what does it mean to bring Black and brown men in particular, but fathers in general, into post-secondary spaces and keep them in those spaces. So that's what comes to mind for me.
If I could just add
Please.
one thing to that, IPEDS data. Every college is required to submit that data that shows their completion rates. And you can always do a FOIA request that says specific information that they must legally provide to you. As the person who is requesting that data. So if you want to know specifically what your college community and your community is doing, you can ask for that. And lastly, I'll say that fathers on campus, men on campus, this whole notion of you don't need a college degree is a strategy. It is very strategic to keep people out. Why? Because after integration, and then you hit the 70s and 80s and 90s, and you start seeing waves of people, and Black and brown people going to college, the establishment said, what's going on? And so now you can't get student loans forgiven, at 40 whatever billion, whatever it was, that number, you can't do that. And now the narrative from the political debate is you don't need to go to college anyway. Who cares about that? It mattered for each of them who have a college degree. They're in their positions, so why doesn't it matter for you all? So I think we need to be thinking about what is that collective message that we need to have for our people. Because many of us, first generation American, first generation student to college, or whoever you are, you're standing on the shoulders of giants, and people fought, bled, died, risked their lives for you to be here, for us to just give it up and give it away, especially for our men. So we need them to come back in, and we need to come up with some sort of strategy to really hit back at this false narrative that they keep pushing out. Because that's the one thing that they'll talk about, but they won't talk about how those degrees supported them.
I also want to add a little bit to that. It's about playing your lane, right? So the mayor's office has something in New York called violence, quelling violence, or something with a lot of violence. And so there's a group of individuals that they give $1,000 a week. They used to call themselves gang members, and now they call themselves street formation, right? And so this was rival gang members, I still call them that, against one another in housing developments in New York. And so I went to see that because I don't do the teenage kids, like I just don't. But I went to see it because I wanted to see what it was like. And when we started, the table was where they're sitting. And, we're sitting here, and of course, we got on our doodads and stuff. And I was there with my director, and we were talking like, what brings you into this and what made you come? And then, of course, they said a band. I knew what that was because my husband had just told me, a band a week, that's what make us come. But one of the young people got up and said, you can't bring nobody here. Nut brought me here. And we brought Bezo over there. We brought him in here. But if you tell me to go out there and bring him in, then they'll bring. And I know that already. But it struck me because these were young people saying, I told him, I said, say less. You know what I mean? He was like, but they started moving their chair up and talking to us and moving their chair up and saying, well, I said, well, what's next? And, I just asked simple questions, but they were very excited. And I said, well, which one of y'all want to go to college? And like 3 of them raised their hand. We are not tapping into on the ground. And so for me, it is really important for me to go back to prison and jail. It is really important for me to go back to housing developments. It is really important. So when I didn't mean I could get them in here, but I could help you figure that same story I was going to say to him. So you can figure out how to get them. They don't even know about college. They don't, know, I mean, a couple of them raised their hand, but they don't know it's a possibility. But when we start having those conversations, and maybe not me, maybe I might be a little bit too young for them, but others. And I think that's how we still have to do the regular, all right, Rashida, needs assessment of our communities. We have to do a needs assessment. We can't build it for them. We need to ask them, just like we want them to do us, ask us what we want, we need to be asking them what would make it better for them.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you to this amazing panel. Daria and Ariel, Yolanda, Michaela, David Kroom. We're done. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.